Hi there, Dr. Vicki Lemper here with the Shift Happens channel. Today we are going to discuss the mental diet. We talk about that a lot in our community. And what does that mean? You know, we often aren't even realizing some of the negative thoughts that we're thinking. But then when we do realize them, we tend to panic and give them more status than what they really need, meaning the fear, the negative emotions. So I'm going to dig in a little deeper as to what the mental diet really means and how we can use the mental diet to manifest with ease and a little faster, okay? But before we do that, always like, share, comment, subscribe. This is how we build our community. And if you enjoy learning a little bit deeper, we dig super deep on the law of assumption. I started out with law of attraction and realized that we are the creators of our reality, meaning we don't attract things, we are things, okay? And so we dig a little deeper beyond even the affirmations and all the processes. Beyond the processes, it goes back to who we truly are and building that self-concept. And really, we don't have to change one thing. We just have to acknowledge and accept ourselves as that beautiful being. But let's get into it. And if you need some life coaching, I'm there for you. It's starting to fill up, so you might want to get on that. It's contact me at shifthappenslifecoaching@gmail.com. All right, so let's get into it. The mental diet. So we talk about this where we need to be aware, and we need to, when it really, we become aware when we have those negative thoughts, right? We see something in the 3D and it strikes or triggers something with us. And then all of a sudden we are like, oh, I have this negative story, I have this negative thought, and oh my gosh, I need to flip it, I need to change it, because oh my gosh, I can't have a negative thought, because if I do that, then I won't get what I want, right? And it all becomes too much of I gotta try at this, and I gotta be aware, and I gotta be vigilant, and I gotta change the story. And it's not even really about flipping the thoughts. It's changing the story, but it's not even like flipping the thoughts is kind of more like, okay, I have a negative thought. Now I'm going to think the opposite of that, and I know all of you just love to hear about the SP, because who doesn't want someone to love, right? But this could be interchanged for any subject, and love, wealth, and perfect health is always what we're after, right? So we can put it in the context of an SP. Let's say he comes up to you, or he or she, and says something that indicates, oh, they're rejecting me. And so then all of a sudden you're like, well, they're not really rejecting me. You get panicked and you're like, oh, I gotta flip that thought. No, they're really saying they love me. But really you're not. It almost makes it worse, because your logical, egotistical mind is saying, really? Because I pretty much heard their words. They said they don't love you, right? And so how am I gonna change that? Oh, I gotta change the exact opposite. They love me. They really said they love me. You can't change the actual experience, but what you can do is change how you interpret it in the being, right? So we need to, especially the mental diet is pretty simple when we want to manifest the simple little things like, oh, I really want a bike. That's fairly simple to manifest. It's the big things like the SP. I really want my love of my life. I really want that beautiful home, that beautiful car, So when we start to shift and start to really pay attention to our mental diet, it's really when we want that big thing. So it's really in the shifting of the identity. What do I mean by that? So when we perceive something as a rejection, we tend to go, there it is. And the reason why is because we're conditioned. We're conditioned to feel that rejection. We're conditioned to feel that lack of funds in our bank account. It is always that feeling of I'm not enough, right? So instead we have to acknowledge, okay, there's that negative emotion, and attached to it is often those conditioned stories of going back to the old person, right? And we're trying to take that old person of those limiting beliefs that we felt like we're not pretty enough, or we're not wealthy enough, or whatever the enough. It's usually on the outside, right? I don't have this house. I don't have the car. I don't have that career. I don't have the perfect body to attract this person, to attract that SP. But really, it's not about all those things out there. It's about feeling solid about yourself and recognizing and acknowledging that you are the core source of your reality. You are connected to source, the ultimate power, right? Big G, your little g. You're a part of that. And so it always goes back to acknowledging the true power that you have and accepting the 3D circumstance and accepting that that negative story or whatever. And I say shift that story to something that's believable, you know, because if you shift it too big, like, oh, they told me, like, let's say they said, I don't want to ever see you or talk to you again. I want you out of my life. That's the ultimate in rejection, right? Well, you can't just go, well, they're really saying, you know, and flip the thought, and they're really saying, I love you and I want you in my life forever and ever. Your logical mind is not going to believe that, right? So you can kind of take a step back and go, okay, well, I know that circumstances are always changing. This is, the 3D is constantly changing, but I know what I don't change is myself. And I know that I accept myself for being that beautiful, wonderful, strong person that's identified with source, right? Because we over-identify with the old story. And so it's just a trigger, like when you feel that mental diet kind of, you know, wavering because you're experiencing that negative emotion, you're in the habit of identifying with that old person of, yeah, you're right, I always get rejected. I'm not wealthy enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. So you have to do a little work. I always say, if you dig in the past, don't linger, right? Just take a little peek and self-soothe it. That is one story out of infinite possibilities of how I felt when I was 7 years old. And let's say my dad ignored me. And so therefore I felt rejected. I'm not good enough. I didn't look a certain way, you know, whatever it was, you know, and whatever I associated it with. And you don't necessarily have to go to the exact event when you slip back into, you know, identifying, like, where did this come from? You can just go back to the feeling of rejection. You don't have to dig so specific and go, well, that one time my parents were supposed to pick me up and they didn't, so therefore I'm abandoned. You know, that could have happened, but you don't need to go into that. Just slip back and go, okay, that was the old story. I know better now. I know that I am the creator and the sole power of my reality, and I'm choosing differently. It's not flipping thoughts, and it's not being so vigilant on those that mental diet where it's like you panic and go, oh no, this negative story is coming back up. What do I do? Shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. Ignore it. Just, you know, flip the thought. No, because it'll it always comes back, all right? You have to be able to acknowledge it, accept it, be the observer. Eckhart Tolle always talks about that. I think he refers to it as the pain body. It's really the ego. The ego is saying, it relies on the past and the future, and it's there to protect you, right? You don't want to get hurt, so be careful. You don't want to put yourself out there. And then all of a sudden you put yourself out there and you're going to interpret everything as a rejection, right? And until you're able to acknowledge that rejection, okay, they did say this. That didn't feel so good. And that's okay, because somewhere, instead of saying, oh yeah, they're right. Oh yeah, there it is. It's proof that I am being rejected. The only proof is within yourself. So when that event actually happens, you can go, you know what? Okay, those words were said. That's their path. My path is I'm going to accept it. I'm going to look within and find how I can accept myself just a little bit more and love myself just a little bit more. That's the ultimate act of self-love, developing your self-concept. And you don't even have to develop it. You just have to accept it, because your self-concept doesn't need any changing. It actually, your self-concept, if you identify as you are the source, you are the writer, the actor, the script writer, everything. You are the source. Source works through you as you. If you accept just that, even Neville Goddard said, if there is only one belief, it is that belief. You can let all other beliefs and processes go. But getting there sometimes, that's what helps with the processes, is to help to get back to your self-concept. The processes, all those strategies we present to you, there's nothing new out there. They do not manifest the things outside. We think the things outside are going to make us whole and complete. We are already whole, complete, and perfect. Accept that and just wallow in that rather than looking at the 3D going, well, there's evidence of that, there's evidence. And people will argue and be like, well, it did really happen. They did really say that. The university didn't want me to do this. Okay, you can accept that as well. Acknowledge it and say, that's one aspect, that's one story. And I know there's multiple stories. And that is the ultimate gift you can give yourself. The ultimate act of self-love, of saying, I accept that. But I'm going to accept myself even more because I'm going to go right back to who I am and create some space for me to go, you know what? And just self-soothe yourself by saying, you know, that's one story. And that's somewhere along the line, I was conditioned to be rejected. I was conditioned to not feel worthy of full love. I was conditioned. There's, you know, whatever the story is with that's attached to that negative emotion, that negative storyline. Say, you know what? I was conditioned at one point, and now I'm going to accept myself as the person that is able to belong, to love, to have a full life. Because you do have that. You just have to accept it, acknowledge it, and appreciate it. And then all of a sudden you're aligned. And then you are able to do inspired action. I just wanted to focus on that mental diet. Don't try so hard. We try too hard. We get too serious about what's going on out there. No, just simply say, hey, at one point I was conditioned to believe all of this. But now I'm conditioning myself to accept myself as that whole, perfect, complete person, that beautiful source. Source works through me, as me. So if you enjoy making manifesting a little deeper and a little more fun, a little more light about it, because that's how you manifest, then go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment. And of course, if you want to learn how to be a little more lighter and a little bit more deeper, it's a lot of fun. We can do some coaching. I can help guide you on that path because I've been through it all those different levels, okay? And you can contact me at shifthappenslifecoaching@gmail.com. Until next time. All right, take care. Bye-bye.